Oil prices fell in early trade in Asia on Monday after Pakistan, which has been mediating an end to the US-Iran war, announced a deal that President Donald Trump said would see the reopening of the key Strait of Hormuz shipping route. Brent crude, the global oil benchmark, was 4% 83.81 to 62.29 a barrel, while US traded oil was down 4.7% at 80.89.
Finally, after what have seemed like countless false starts, a deal has been agreed by the US and Iran. Both sides have predictably claimed victory. President Trump has boldly declared, "This great deal will bring peace and security to the whole region."
The announcement of a deal to end hostilities between the US and Iran has provided Donald Trump with a very welcome birthday present, although it's wrapped in a fair measure of uncertainty. In his social media post heralding the agreement, the American president said that the Strait of Hormuz would be open to commercial shipping and the US would lift its naval blockade.
Bilawal urges protesters to call off sit-ins. Party's AJK wing wants elections schedule withdrawn as PMLN insists on elections without delay. 2 deaths reported from Revolako Islamabad. In what appears to be a rethink of the elections in Azod Jammu and Kashmir AJK, the PPP swung into action on Sunday, with its chairman urging the Joint Awaji Action Committee chapter to end its protests and its AJK chapter asking the Election Commission to withdraw the election schedule. US and Iranian officials said they had agreed on a framework to end the war, halt the US blockade of Iran, and reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a preliminary pact that sent oil prices falling but leaves the fate of Iran's nuclear program to further negotiations. The deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. US President Donald Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform around 5:30 p.m. ET local time in Washington, 21:03 GMT on Sunday.
As Washington and Tehran explore the contours of a possible new nuclear agreement following recent military strikes and a ceasefire, the emerging framework appears markedly different from the deal negotiated by former President Barack Obama in 2015. Yet experts who helped craft the original agreement argue that diplomacy remains indispensable, regardless of military developments, and caution that any lasting settlement will ultimately depend on verification, inspections and mutual compromise. A prominent Ukrainian monastery complex in the heart of Kyiv is on fire following a massive Russian attack overnight into Monday that wounded more than a dozen people in the capital, according to local authorities. EEG showed flames billowing from the Kyiv-Pechersk Lavra, which traces its roots back almost 1,000 years following the attack, which wounded at least 18 across the city, according to Mayor Vitaly Klitschko.
Washington, D.C., a newly struck deal to end the US-Israel war on Iran is being hailed as a strategic victory by US President Donald Trump and his allies, though the specific terms of the agreement remain unknown. Praise from supporters poured in for the US president on Sunday, despite questions over which commitments would be included in the initial Memorandum of Understanding, MOO, to be signed on Friday, and which issues, such as Iran's nuclear program, would only be opened for negotiations after the deal is inked.
US President Donald Trump has announced that a deal with Iran will be signed this Friday, following a series of statements that suggesting a ceasefire agreement after more than 100 days of war. Tehran has since confirmed the announcement, saying that an end to the war, which began following a US-Israeli assault on Iran on the 28th February, will be declared early on Monday morning GMT. Los Angeles. Upon arrival in the United States, Iran's head coach Amir Galanoe wanted to talk about football. Before Iran's first press conference in Los Angeles on Sunday, FIFA officials warned reporters to stick to sport and tactics when addressing Galanoe and striker Mehdi Taremi. Mutare, Zimbabwe. New homesteads cling to the slopes of Zimbabwe's Eastern Highlands, a fertile mountain region that has become a destination for people fleeing drought-stricken parts of the country. Many arrived hoping to rebuild their lives on land where crops can still grow. Now they fear they could be forced out as the government intensifies a crackdown on illegal settlements. Two helicopters collided over Rio de Janeiro on Sunday morning and crashed in the city's western zone, killing all 6 people aboard. Firefighters said Rio de Janeiro's military fire department said that one of the helicopters crashed on the parking lot of a car dealership, where several electric vehicles were parked, igniting a fire that was extinguished. UEFA President Alexander Ceferin has been criticised by football governing bodies in Asia, Africa and the Caribbean for reportedly saying that the expanded 48-team FIFA World Cup has led to many uninteresting matches. The football associations of Cape Verde, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Curacao, Haiti, Jordan, Uzbekistan, Algeria, Egypt, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Morocco, Senegal, South Africa and Tunisia said in a statement on Sunday that they respectfully but firmly reject Ceferin's comments.
Japan scored an 88th minute equaliser as they twice fought back to rescue a 2-2 draw with the Netherlands in front of 69,285 spectators in Texas, opening their World Cup campaigns. A match that had bubbled away in the first period sparked into life in the second half on Sunday.
United States President Donald Trump has announced that a ceasefire deal with Iran has been agreed to and that toll-free shipping through the Strait of Hormuz will now begin. The agreement, later confirmed by Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister on Sunday, will immediately end hostilities between Iran and the US.
17 people have been injured after the wagon of a tourist train overturned in the Spanish town of Cartama. The accident happened just after 21:30 local time, 20:30 BST on Saturday evening, according to local authorities. The cause is unknown. Charlie Javis, the convicted Frank founder, is reportedly seeking a presidential pardon, with her camp quietly courting people close to the Trump administration, according to the WSJ. So far, her name hasn't turned up on a formal clemency request list at the Justice Department. It adds that list is growing fast, as the administration reportedly weighs handing out roughly 250 pardons this summer to mark America's 250th birthday. A wave of clemency requests is pouring in from white-collar defendants, including Sam Bankman-Fried.
2 helicopters have collided in mid-air over the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro, killing all 6 people on board, local authorities said. Officials have launched an investigation into the cause of Sunday morning's crash over a western suburb of the city called Recreio dos Bandeirantes.
UK. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is about to announce a ban on social media usage for children under the age of 16, according to multiple reports. While the government had previously revealed that it was studying options around a ban, both The Guardian and the Financial Times said that Starmer is now ready to unveil the policy in a speech on Monday.
Israeli military maps have failed to reflect the true extent of the country's territorial control since the war on Gaza began on October 7, 2023. A new probe by Al Jazeera's open-source investigation unit reveals that Israeli forces have established a de facto military footprint across the Gaza Strip, southern Lebanon and southern Syria, covering approximately 1,000 kilometres, 386 square miles, a size larger than the whole of New York City. This newly controlled territory amounts to roughly 5% of Israel's total landmass prior to October 2023, which includes the occupied Palestinian territories and the occupied Syrian Golan Heights.
Germany won their first opening match at a World Cup since lifting the trophy in 2014 as they eased to a 7-1 win against debutants Curacao in their opening Group E match in Houston, Texas in the United States. The Germans will face stiffer tests against group rivals Ecuador and Ivory Coast, but Sunday's win against the tiny Caribbean nation puts them in a good position to progress to the knockout stages for the first time since 2014. At least 12 people have been killed in a plane crash in Missouri in the Midwestern United States. According to authorities, the crash on Sunday was near Butler Memorial Airport in Bates County, south of the state's largest city, Kansas City.
Former Formula One champion Lewis Hamilton won his first race as part of the legendary Ferrari team, capturing victory at the Barcelona-Catalunya Grand Prix in Spain on Sunday. The triumph came in his 31st race with Ferrari in a year of resurgence for Hamilton. The 41-year-old is in second place in the driver standings, trailing teenager Kimi Antonelli, who was seeking his sixth consecutive victory for his Mercedes team.
Germany won their first opening match at a World Cup since lifting the trophy in 2014 as they eased to a 7-1 win against debutants Curaçao in their opening Group E match in Houston. On Sunday, the Germans will face stiffer tests against group rivals Ecuador and Ivory Coast. But the win against the tiny Caribbean nation puts them in a good position to progress to the knockout stages for the first time since 2014.
Leaders of some of the world's largest economies will gather in France for the annual G7 summit this week. It's the first meeting since the start of the Iran war, which has led to clear divisions in the group, as members accuse the United States of a lack of coordination before launching its attacks.
India made the perfect start to their women's 2020 World Cup campaign with a 64-run win against Pakistan on Sunday. Harmanpreet Kaur's side dominated from start to finish in their opening group game of the tournament at Edgbaston. Russian President Vladimir Putin held a phone call with US President Donald Trump on Sunday, during which he congratulated him on his 80th birthday and discussed bilateral relations between Moscow and Washington, according to the Kremlin. During the conversation, which lasted just under an hour, Trump once again called for an end to the war in Ukraine. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov said.
Thousands of protesters have gathered in Geneva ahead of this week's Group of Seven G7 summit, which is set to bring together United States President Donald Trump and other world leaders in nearby France. The demonstration on Sunday was led by the so-called No G7 coalition, which is comprised of more than 60 associations and groups, including Palestinian rights advocates, feminist activists and environmentalists.
SpaceX went public this week in the largest IPO ever, making CEO Elon Musk the world's first trillionaire. Despite its name, SpaceX has been emphasizing the potential of its costly AI business. And competitors OpenAI and Anthropic may soon follow with their own public market debut. So on the latest episode of TechCrunch's equity podcast, Kirsten Sean O'Kane discussed what's looking like a hot IPO summer. And I
Islamabad, as the PPP's Azad Jammu and Kashmir AK chapter on Sunday urged the region's election commission to withdraw the election schedule for 12 refugee seats in the Legislative Assembly. Information Minister Atolla Tarar called for a resolution to differences through democratic and constitutional means ahead of the July 27 elections in AJK. The Joint Awami Action Committee JSC had called for widespread protests demanding the abolition of 12 seats in the region's Legislative Assembly reserved for refugees from Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, who settled in mainland Pakistan after 1947.